Hey guys, so in this video we're going to be covering the basic knowledge that you must know when starting AP Computer Science A. So in this video you're going to learn how to make classes, methods, the interior code inside a method, variables, and comments. So the structure of your Java application. So let me talk about this too. So your Java application starts with the class. So the class contains almost all your code in the application, and it is required that you must have a class. If you don't have a class, then your application merely doesn't function and it won't produce anything. In a class, you have something called a method. So a method, it's responsible for the application to function. So it contains all the functions it contains all the functions that the application must perform, and it helps the application actually spring to life and function. And inside the method, you have a set of code known as the interior code. So this is responsible for actually laying out the directions for the method to produce its intended function in order for the Java application to actually execute itself. So, yeah. They can include commands such as System.out.println. So this line of code, System.out.println, it actually displays a text on the screen. So if you put that inside a method and you run the class, if you run the Java application and you call a method, then the method will allow whatever's inside the parentheses here to print, and yeah, Java application executes itself thanks to the method and set of directions laid by the interior code. So I'm going to be comparing the basic Java application to a human body. So a class is like a human body itself. So a class contains pretty much everything, almost every code in a Java application. The human body contains all the organs and the nerve impulses needed to survive and live. And a method is what makes a body function. So it contains, let's say the method is kind of like the organs and arms and legs of the whole body. So it is responsible for executing a function of moving arms and moving legs. So it encapsulates a method encapsulates the interior code, and this interior code gives directions to the method that allow the arms of the body to move and to move the legs of a body as well. So the interior code, it gives the directions and lays them out for the methods in order to run itself, right? It allows the method to run in a Java application. So examples of the interior code could include nerve signals. It tells the method to move the arms and legs. It literally tells the method. So classes. A class is the main section of your code. An application must have a class no matter what. If it doesn't have a class, then the application basically fails and it doesn't perform anything. And this is how you typically make a class, a typical normal class. So public class main. Ignore the public part for now. I will talk about it in a later video. So you define the class as a class, and then you name the class main. So this is what the main is there for. And then classes use curly braces right here and there in order to encapsulate all the code inside of it. So, but in between these curly braces, there are going to be methods and interior code that allow the Java application to run. Yeah, basically a class encapsulates almost all the code you're going to need in order for the application to run. Methods. So they are what make your application function. And it is filled with a set of directions known as interior code. So, for example, here, the section of code that I'm circling with my cursor here, so this is known as a method. So, public static void. This is actually one method that you're going to see a lot when you make a lot of Java applications. So, public static void main string args. Yeah, and like a class, you name the method, as shown here by the yellow text. So it tells the method that it is named main, and like a class, it uses curly braces in order to encapsulate even more code inside of it. So a method can encapsulate only interior code inside of it. It can only have interior code, such as System.out.println that helps the method function. Yeah, and as I said before, the main method, it's a very important method. You're going to make it a lot in Java applications inside classes. It will encapsulate set of directions, and yeah, as I said before, it uses curly braces. So methods continued. You can have as many methods in a class as you want, no matter what. So you could have like multiple methods. You could have 1,000,000 of them in a class if you want. And the one that is always required, the one that is always mandatory to put inside a Java application is the main method. You need to put it inside at least one class. The main method is different from the usual methods. Yeah. So when you create Java applications, more Java applications in the future, you will usually create ones like this. It'll be further explained in a later video. So you're going to be creating methods like this: public void print. Then you're going to have the curly braces. Yeah. The parentheses contain your parameters. Yeah, these define your method. So the interior code. It has the directions for the method to function. And the interior code, you don't necessarily need any curly braces to encapsulate even more code. And here, this is the interior code pretty much. It's inside the main method. So System.out.println hello world. It tells the main method to display the text hello world to the screen. It literally displays this text to the screen without the quotation marks. So every time you make a line of code, it has to end with a semicolon no matter what. If the interior lines of code do not end with a semicolon, then they are invalid and won't work. Variables. So I'm going to teach you how to make variables. So the variables usually belong in the interior code of a method. So it usually belongs where the System.out.println line usually belongs. So there are actually, in order to actually make variables, you must understand the types involved with it. So there are different kinds of types. The main kinds of types you're going to have to know are called primitive types. So the primitive types are very important. You must know them. They're the first 4 in this table, not highlighted in orange. And I'll tell you the types right now. So int, it basically means an integer. Oh yeah, and by the way, before I go into it further, a type is case sensitive, so you must type this exact thing no matter what. Strings capitalized, whereas everything else is not, pretty much. So int means it's an integer, and it allows you to make a positive or negative value, but however, the value cannot be a decimal. Boolean. This is a pretty wacky one. So this type makes a variable have either a true value or a false value. And as I said before, you could only put true or false into the variable, a Boolean variable. A double variable. It is merely a decimal. It's kind of like an integer in a way that it could be positive or negative. However, value needs to be decimal. You could have as many place values as possible, like 1.99999. However, it cannot just basically be a smackdown decimal. It cannot be a smackdown integer. It cannot basically be an integer. It must have a decimal point. If you're going to use a decimal point and you have, I guess, no numbers after the decimal point, then just put 1.0 in order for the double variable to actually be valid. You cannot put like 1 point or 1 plainly in a double variable. You must put 1.0 if you don't want any numbers after the decimal point, or just put some numbers after the decimal point. Char, it allows a variable to have a value of a character. It could be any character, but it could only be one character. It could only hold one character, sorry about this, it's not supposed to be letter, it's character as a value, like A or B. And string, it is a string of letters combined. That's what it literally means. So a string, it could be, actually, it's like more flexible than a character, a char itself. So a string variable can either be, I guess, a single character, or a word, or a phrase, or even an entire sentence. You could even add spaces, you could add anything you want. But however, strings are not primitive types. They are object-related types. They are not primitive, so so please don't say string is a primitive type. Yeah, examples are shown here. Hi there, word. Those are some examples. So this is the basic structure of a variable. So you're gonna have the type here, space name. So you can name the variable anything you want. Equals to value. So you could input a value to assign to a variable, and then you must end with a semicolon, no matter what. Please end with a semicolon. If you don't, then the variable is not going to be valid at all. So yeah, examples are shown here. Int number equals to 5. It is a positive, negative number, and it doesn't have any decimal points inside. So yeah, that's valid. A double decimal equals to 1.0. Yeah. So it's positive or negative, and at the same time, it is a decimal. You cannot put like smack down 1 or 1 point. You cannot do that. You have to put either 1.0 or 1.999 or like whatever you like. Any number you like. That's not a decimal. It could have any place value, by the way. Yeah, Boolean var equals to true, Boolean var equals to false. A Boolean variable can only have 2 values, true or false. That's it, nothing else. And then char character equals to a. You can only have 1 character inside. However, when you actually input the value, you need single quotation marks inside. You need single quotation marks. If you put double quotation marks like these, it will not function. And a string, make sure it is capital at the beginning. That's the one that's different from the other primitive types. Yeah, and in a string, you use double quotation marks to surround whatever you're going to put in as a value, no matter what. You don't put single quotation marks. So I'm saying hi there as a value for a string. So System.out.println. It's a very important line of code, and it literally prints the value you put into the parentheses. Example, yeah, I could put in 5 in the parentheses. Oh yeah, by the way, make sure to have semicolons. I have to stress this because your code won't function if you don't add a semicolon to the end at all times. So I'm gonna add in 5. It'll print out 5 after I execute the method. And yeah, if I println hi there, yeah, if you want to input a string into the parentheses, you must have quotation marks, like the double quotation marks, if you want it as a string, no matter what. So if you're going to print a string, it'll just plainly print this without any parentheses whatsoever. This is the same for the char as well. It won't print out the quotations as well. So let's go to the third one. So it'll System.out.println true. You're printing a Boolean value, and it'll print out true. You could even smack down false. It'll print out false. Anything that's a Boolean value, true or false, yeah, it'll print it out. And then System.out.println, you print a char a. It must have single quotation marks, or else it's not going to be valid. And it'll print out the single character a. You can even print variables as well. So examples. So Boolean var equals to true. Yeah. So if you assign a variable as a Boolean and you assign it a value, in order to actually print out the value of the variable to the screen, you must put the variable name inside the parentheses. So you have to put var inside the parentheses if you want the value of the variable to be displayed. And it'll print out the value of the variable, true. And then another example, int number equals to 5. 5 is the value assigned to the variable, and the variable is named number. So if you put number inside the parentheses, it should print out 5. And you must put the name only inside the parentheses, or else it will not print anything, and it will give an error. Comments. So I'm going to teach you how to make comments. So you can pretty much type anything you want, and it will not mess the code up. So yeah, why the heck do I want to add comments? Well, it's used for telling people about your code. Pretty much. You could add it anywhere you want. However, yeah, comments don't even do anything. So if you want a piece of code that actually functions, please do not use comments. It will not even do anything, honestly. And that's a good thing about comments, because if you want to describe about code, then it's good for it. You'll usually do this when you have to present someone your code and how it works. So there are two main types of comments. There's single line comments. You can only so single line comments are comments that you can only write on a line. So you can only write this comment on a single line. You cannot write this on multiple lines, or else it'll give an error. It'll always begin with 2 forward slashes. It'll always begin with those. An example of this will be, hi, this is my comment. And then, yeah, it will not do anything. In some IDEs, you'll usually see this line turn gray in color. And then another type of comment is a multi-line comment. It'll take the span of multiple lines. This is more complex than a single line comment. It will take the span of multiple lines. But however, you must always start with a forward and then this character, and then it'll end with, yeah, that pretty much. It'll always begin with this and it'll end with that. So an example of this will be, hi, this is my comment. It spans for multiple lines and it's valid, pretty much. You're telling the people who see your code pretty much this for multiple lines. And in some computer science A classes, they will use document style comments. They will work like multi-line comments, except they pretty much function kind of like multi-line comments. So just when you're working with these document style comments, just treat them like multi-line comments. But the thing that differentiates it from multi-line comments is that they appear on something called a Java doc page of an application, and it won't output anything. Just like any other comment, it will not do anything to the code. It's just used to merely describe it on a Java doc page as well. It does not do anything to the code, but the difference is that it'll start with a forward slash and then 2 of these. Not 1, but 2 of these. And then it'll end with that, this and that. Right? Yeah. An example of this will be, hi there, this is a comment. Oh yeah, and by the way, let me clarify. A multi-line comment and a document style comment, you could actually use it for a single line. It doesn't have to be spanning for multiple lines. Just, I guess, put this next to the end of this. Just put the ending syntax next to here if you wanted a single line. That's pretty much it. It doesn't need to be multiple lines. It's very flexible. And that's pretty much it. For more videos like this, please click on the subscribe button and like the video. And thank you for all your support. Thank you for viewing this video. I really hope that this video helps you in AP Computer Science. See you in the next video.